I'm Ryan Bellgardt, director and writer of the Jurassic Games, and you're watching The 13th Wolfman. Ow! Ow, 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 ow!
Hey everybody, welcome to Sit Down. That's right, I'm the 13th Wolfman. I have on tonight Ryan Bellgardt, the director, writer of Jurassic Games, Gremlin, and one of the stars, Katie Burgess from also Gremlin and Jurassic Games. So welcome to Sit Down, you two.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having us.
I'm good. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I know that you got like a tight schedule, so how did you get involved with working with Ryan in the first place, Katie?
Okay, so I auditioned for Gremlin a while ago. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how long ago it was. It was probably about two and a half years ago, and I auditioned for Gremlin, and I got that part originally, and so I think that after working with him on Gremlin, we were able to get to know each other, and I kind of got to know his crew, and I loved the way that they worked and their work ethic and kind of what they were all about. So it was no question for me whether or not to work on the Jurassic Games with him.
Cool. And we love Katie so much on Gremlin that as we were writing Joy, we wrote the character of Joy with Katie in mind. Because we just knew that she would do a fantastic job at playing this, psychotic, crazy killer, because that's pretty much how she acted on set at Gremlin.
Yes.
No, it's kind of funny because she's so sweet and opposite of her characters that she plays in our movie. But I guess to show you what a great actress she is.
I guess, yeah, you had a lot of trust in me for that one.
So when you heard that Ryan wrote Joy for you, were you committed to anything else before this, or were you waiting for this role to come along?
Honestly, I wasn't really waiting for anything. I was kind of in the middle of figuring out my college situation. It was my senior year of high school, so I really didn't have anything planned. But when Ryan approached me about the role of Joy, I was so excited. It's so different from anything else that I've played before, and so I was thrilled and honored that he trusted me to take on that challenge, and I was completely stoked for it.
Well, you did a great job. Like I said earlier when we were talking before, that she's a very vile character, so you did a good job of not making her very lovable at all.
So nice, I think.
Well, she's just a badass. That's what I'm trying to say. She's a female Snake Plissken.
She is, and she's so strong. I love that she is powerful and strong, and even though she is just crazy and evil, she's this powerful female character, which I think is really important to our time in the film industry now. So I think that it kind of she has another take on the female powerful role.
It was also a physical role that we had Katie doing a lot of her own stunts and a lot of the fighting and stuff like that. So, that was stuff that we trained with a little bit, but I've heard you say other times, Katie, that you may have wished that you would have worked out a little bit more, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. There were times on set when I was just so regretful of the times that I decided to watch Netflix rather than go to the gym.
Well, Ryan, on your end, Jurassic Games. It's a very cool idea. It's kind of like a Survivor, but it's a virtual Survivor in a way.
Yeah.
Where did this idea come from, man?
Man, the original concept, we were throwing around the ideas of dinosaurs versus convicts, and we knew that was going to be something we wanted to do. after we did Gremlin and did the visual effects on that, we felt confident that we could do dinos. But as we kicked the ideas around, it was just, I was having a hard time coming up with a story that I liked, that kind of made sense why there would be dinosaurs versus convicts, that I just wanted to throw a new spin on it. And I was trying to think, why would it really be like that? Why would there be dinosaurs? And then it kind of occurred to me to sort of like, in a meta way, well, there's dinosaurs in this in this movie because the buyers want dinosaurs in this movie. And so we're going to make this around a television show where the powers that be wanted there to be dinosaurs. And that's why there are dinosaurs. And so even the title of Jurassic Games, like all the things that were kind of like things that we were trying to put into this movie, I decided to just move over into this television show within the movie. Having it be a virtual, kind of a virtual reality also was fun because then I could make my game arena whatever I wanted, which was really fun too. And so you get these really cool different locations like the desert, the forest, and the lake, and all these different things. And they don't have to travel to them; they can just sort of like just be there. So there was a lot of kind of Running Man stuff kind of in there, and I know people have compared it to The Condemned, which I haven't seen, but I like that game show aspect of it. And then the other thing I thought was that, well, it's kind of plausible then that if this existed in the near future, there would probably be people that would protest this. And that's when sort of the B story idea came along to have, this group of sort of, radical protesters trying to disrupt the game somehow. And that part of the story was really fun to write and incorporate into a B story. And it was really fun to have the two stories, the one in the game and the one out of the game, sort of merge at the end. I was really happy with the way that turned out.
And you took a line from A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I didn't even know that. What line was it?
I've seen way too many horror movies, man. So yeah, there's a line where Ryan Merriman's explaining everything to everyone, and he goes, "Oh yeah, and if you die in there, you die in real life." Ah,
okay. Is that from Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yeah, which is if you die in your sleep, you die in real life.
Oh, right. Well, I didn't intentionally steal that line, but yes, that is the way that we could explain dying in the game and dying in real life is that lethal injection is just the way these convicts are dying. They're death row inmates, and then if they die in the game, playing the game, then they just get administered the lethal injection, and that's how they die. So, but yeah, that's what happens. That's funny. Yeah. That's what I was saying. I was saying that to you earlier before we went on. It's like there are things that like subconsciously sort of get into these movies from other movies that I don't even realize, that are just like accidentally, borrowed from.
No, dude, I think it's fine. I think you should just say, when I bring it up, you should just go, yeah, I did that.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I meant to do that. Of course. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing wrong with borrowing, right?
No,
Katie?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Go for it. If it works, it works.
Yeah, I mean, and you can tell with a title like Jurassic Games, we were definitely borrowing a little bit,
right? Yeah. I honestly, when I heard the title Jurassic Games and I read the synopsis, I'm like, what am I getting into? I really wasn't, much like when you were like trying to write it. I was like, I'm not quite sure where they're going to go with this. And it turned out to be a pretty good movie, man. I really dug it. I said before, I still think Gremlin's your best, but I want the box from Gremlin. That's my thing.
I told you what happened to the box from Gremlin, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's gone. No, it's at the bottom of a lake. Yeah, well, luckily I was able to keep the cool props from Jurassic Games, so I have those. So, but man, I appreciate the kind words. We worked, I'm always working very hard to improve on the work we did before, and I think Jurassic Games, in a lot of ways, was a lot more ambitious, than Gremlin, especially with the amount of visual effects and the amount of action. But, with each movie that I get to do, I'm always trying to kind of focus and hone in on a specific thing that I want to do. And so on Gremlin, I was really focused on, suspense and horror and kind of like, seeing if I could get people to kind of like cringe or be uncomfortable. Whereas Jurassic Games, it was more like, I want to see if I can get people to walk out of the experience of Jurassic Games and say, man, that was fun. I had fun. And like you mentioned, it's like, it's kind of a movie where you just sort of turn your brain off and just have fun with it. And I think that was, I'm glad to hear you say that because that's what we're trying to do with Jurassic Games.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun movie. And much like I remember the last time I had you on, we talked about what you should do for like a box set, make the little box and.
Oh yeah.
Well, for this one, you should use the little spherical camera. And
right.
Have the DVDs and the Blu-rays come out of the sides where the stabilizers are.
See, that is a really cool idea. Unfortunately, I don't think our distributor would want to pay the money to make that happen. But I love the idea. That's really cool. That's really cool, man. Wow.
The next one.
Yeah, the sequel, right?
The sequel,
yeah. That's a cool idea.
I just saw it and I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be like the little carriages you see on like computers where it would hold the discs.
Exactly.
Well,
I mean, yeah, it would probably make the DVD a lot more expensive, and therefore I don't know if anyone would buy it. But hey, it would be cool. I'd buy it.
You would put the DVD out in a regular box. You put the Blu-ray on a regular box, then you put out the collector's edition. Like what Warner Brothers does with Batman.
Right.
There was like when The Dark Knight came out and Batman came out, there were like a billion different things you could get. The Batmobile and the Signal and
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, the favorite prop that I have is the helmet, that the host wears when he's inside the game, and that is it's really cool. It was 3D printed, so I actually have the 3D printed. It's really sturdy and heavy duty, and just Ryan Merriman when he was out there would just wear that helmet. And he couldn't see anything, and he was just walking around kind of blind, but it was pretty cool. It was neat because for a lot of the movie. When he's out in the game environment, the reason he's wearing a mask is because I knew I wouldn't be able to have Ryan for that many days, of shooting. So we used a guy, a really great actor named Daniel, who came in and he had a speaking part in the movie, but his main role was to be the stand-in for Ryan Merriman, and he mimicked all of his movements. He watched him perform, he watched him act, so that he could act like him when he was out in the desert. And so anytime you see the game master host character out in the game, it's Daniel. But there is one time where it's Ryan, and it's the very beginning of the movie when the host is explaining the game to everybody. Ryan read that part of the script and said, I really want to come out that day to your location and film that scene because I really want to do that scene. And that's just kind of the guy he was. I mean, he wasn't there just to do a job and get a paycheck and leave. He was he was into it, and that was really cool because he came in and said, I want to come out this day. I want to film this scene for you guys. And it was so awesome, man, is that night, that location was out in the middle of nowhere. It was a place called Robbers Cave State Park. And he came and stayed the night with us at our campsite and cooked us all onion burgers, and he had his dog out there, and we all just had a great time. So, I mean, having Ryan Merriman on the set was just like kind of a real treat and a real like morale booster for everybody when we were like on day, I think we were, day 4 or 5 out of like 6 or 7 days out there in the middle of nowhere. So he was really cool. He's a great dude.
It was fun. He is a great guy, and he did not have stand-ins, and neither do I on this set. So I am going to peace out of this right now, but I will check back in later.
Thanks, Katie.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
So Ryan, we have the trailer. Could you introduce it?
Yeah, sure. Here is the official trailer for the Jurassic Games. Roll it.
It feels real, doesn't it? The sand on your skin, the taste in your mouth. You are no longer death row inmates. You are contestants on the greatest game show in the world, the Jurassic Games.
This is the most controversial cast we've seen on the Jurassic Games in years.
Isn't this really nothing more than exploitation of these contestants? You are essentially torturing them on live television.
Public execution is nothing new.
My client maintains his innocence.
I'm not here to kill anybody.
I'm here to kill everybody.
I am not the judge.
I quit!
We are not the jury.
But the game is the execution. Wait. Not yet. Not yet.
Come on! 3, 2, 1.
And that's the trailer. Yeah, this movie seems like a good time. Honestly, how long did it take for you to go from, I've asked you this before, but from writing it to final cut?
This one took about 15 months, about a year and 3 months. We started in January of 2017, conceptualizing it and writing it, and then we shot it in about March, that spring, and then after that we spent another year after that really doing all the visual effects and post-production work. So it took our team about a year after we filmed it. It took about 3 months to write and film it. So yeah, about 15 months. Now, our first movie took about 18 months, and then Gremlin was about a year, a little less than a year. So we're trying to get faster and faster, and the team's getting bigger and bigger. So it kind of helps. But again, the movies are getting more and more ambitious with more and more special effects and things like that. So
I can understand why this one took a little bit longer than Gremlin, though. I mean, there's a lot to do in this movie. I mean, there's a lot of visual effects.
There is, and there's things that we had never even done before or tried to do before. There was a lot of troubleshooting, things to figure out, like fur on a tiger and things like the sand, being kicked up by Tyrannosaurus Rexes and things like that, things that we had never done, multiple creatures in one shot, that were really challenging. But the team, I'm just really, really proud of them, because those guys, one thing I like to say about this movie, to me, when I watch it, is I feel like I can see the heart in it, because these guys all signed on, loved the whole thing from the beginning, and we're all really excited to make something that what they could be really proud of. So everybody from the cast and crew, all the way to the visual effects artist and even the composer and the sound designer, all were really excited about it and kind of like pushed themselves a little bit further than I think they normally would, like kind of like went out of their comfort zone a little bit. So when everyone does that, you sort of get I think a project that to me far exceeded my expectations for it, even though we knew going in, hey, this could be really cool, but I just think everybody did a really great job, and I'm really proud of the movie, and I'm really proud of them, and I'm excited, for those guys.
Did a wonderful job. I mean, I thought the visual effects on Gremlin were top notch, but I mean, the T-Rexes in this just look. Two of them look great, and then there's one scene where one looks a little flat, but I didn't care because I was along for the ride,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing that I remember when I watched the final cut of the movie with all the visual effects in for the first time, and I saw it all finished. I thought, well, what's wrong with the movie to me is that we don't have the consistency of a giant movie, a giant, big, huge budget movie, as far as the quality of the visual effects from shot to shot to shot. And that's nobody's fault. It's just the way that it kind of just fell into certain things we spent all of our time and energy and resources on, like the T-Rex fight, the raptor maze scene. Like, we spent a lot of time on those scenes. And then there were other scenes that were kind of like, oh yeah, we still have to do the man-eating plant attack. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't. We weren't able to give it the same kind of TLC that we gave other shots. So that's the thing. When you watch it all back together, an audience or someone who's watching doesn't care. Whether we spent 4 months on the T-Rex scene and 2 weeks on the plant scene. But that's just kind of how it worked out. And when you're working with there was only probably 4 or 5 main people that were working on the creatures for the whole movie. And so those guys were working for months and months and months, and we were trying to hit a deadline to get the movie released in time. And during those last few weeks, I mean, those guys were putting in, all-nighters and staying up till 3, 4 in the morning, and then coming right back the next day to continue working on it. And that was again, it's like, I know the work and the effort these guys put into this, so I can see the visual effects and say, man, you guys really just outdid yourselves. It's awesome. But then you got you got people that are kind of like, oh, that looks bad or that looks weird, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, we all know, we know too, and we are just going to work to improve and try to fix those problems for the next time.
Yeah, no, that's it. You learn as you go. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not picking on the movie at all. I can't do any of that stuff. So I hail to the people that can.
Yeah, someone told me though that like everybody is, and I agreed with this. They said, everybody's an expert in movies and television because we're so exposed and we see so much of it. And I think that that's why, like anyone, whether they make movies or not, can look at something and know it's good or not good. And I don't have an issue with somebody saying, hey, here's a constructive comment or constructive critique about your work. I don't have a problem with that at all. I actually want it. I would rather someone say something like, yeah, that scene looks a little weird, or that. And so, because people talked about the pacing of my first two movies, and sometimes they were like, oh, it's just too slow, or this part's too slow. And so with Jurassic Games, I kind of went in there with a vengeance, like, no one's going to say this movie is slow. I'm going to make it like action packed, like back to back to back to back to back. And I wrote it that way, and we did it that way, almost to the point where I thought the movie was going to be too short when we did our original edit of it, and because it was just so, like, I tried to make it so tight. So I do listen, and I want to get better, and the team wants to get better. And I think that's important when you're in doing this kind of stuff, that you do listen, because if enough people say, hey, that was weird, or hey, you're doing this in a way I don't like, then you have to kind of like, okay, well, I always say, like, negative criticism doesn't define me, but I do listen, and I do appreciate it. So, even someone that gives it 1 star, I think that the only criticism that I don't agree with is when someone says something like, oh, I hate it when people try to make a bad movie on purpose, because that's absolutely not what I'm trying to do. Yeah. I'm trying to make the best movie I can. And if it turns into being a bad movie or a B movie, it's simply because I don't have the resources or the money or the budget to make a $250 million Jurassic World movie,
And that's the thing. You shouldn't have to spend $250 million to make an A movie. I've seen, dude, A Quiet Place.
Oh, I love that movie. I love that.
A Quiet Place came out. That movie cost something like $17 million to make, which is still a lot of money, but still, compared to the big budgets that Jurassic World's putting into it,
Yeah.
It cost nothing and made a bundle.
Yeah, well, and I watched A Quiet Place, and those are the kind of movies that I watch and think, wow, I love that. I bet we can make a movie like that. It's such great writing, it's such great writing and such great tension and suspense in that movie, and then it had a cool CG creature that was really, really well done. So yeah, that movie's right up my alley. I loved it.
Yeah. So as a filmmaker, you must have other filmmakers that inspire you. Who are they?
Well, I'm kind of a child of the 80s, and I think I grew up watching Steven Spielberg stuff. I mean, the original Jurassic Park is something I think I saw 12 times in the theater. I think that came out around my senior year, 1993 or something, and I think I missed a bunch of school going to watch that movie. Loved it, and it blew me away. I love John Carpenter. I love Big Trouble in Little China. I loved, I love stuff like The Goonies and stuff. I think I'm not so sure if it was necessarily other filmmakers so much that inspired me as much as it was just the idea of movies being escapism and creating worlds. And that's something that I always admire, a good movie that creates a great world, So something like, even something like The Matrix or anything that creates, Star Wars I loved, Lord of the Rings I loved. I mean, just, Peter Jackson and all that. I would love to, I could see, hopefully for me, doing a movie like Jurassic Games is kind of like a training ground to be able to one day play in the bigger arena where we get to have the bigger budgets to make the really big worlds. I think I'm always going to like that, whether it's horror or sci-fi, or whatever. It's like, that's the genre. And that's what I was doing as a kid, is I was going for 2 hours and I was going somewhere else, and it wasn't in a neighborhood that I recognized or or anything. It was just like, that's the appeal to me of like making a movie about Frankenstein monsters in the Civil War, or making a movie about people in the near future playing it against dinosaurs in a virtual game is like, that doesn't exist. And that's the fun thing for me about making movies, is that when you start watching the Jurassic Games, you're thinking, well, this isn't Oklahoma or Los Angeles. This is anywhere, and it's a whole new place. And that's the thing that appeals to me about it.
Well, Ryan, I want to say thank you for making this movie, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for watching it.
It was a good movie. It was a fun movie. I say, tell everyone to check it out when it comes out. People are looking for you on the internet, man. Where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook real easily. Just search for Ryan Bellgardt. I think there's one more Ryan Bellgardt in Australia, and I think he's like a kid or something. So it's not him. I'm the other one. And so you can find me there. And if you want to shoot me a message or something, I always like talking about filmmaking, and man, I could go on and on about this stuff. So yeah, just find me there. And then the movie comes out on VOD on June 12th, and then on DVD on July 3rd. So hopefully you guys can check out Jurassic Games. And if you do, shoot me a message and let me know what you thought. And give me some constructive criticism. Yeah, right. Yeah. Thanks, man. Well, again. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, for Ryan Bellgardt, I'm the 13th Wolfman. And of course, as always, I'm on the prowl.